Right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today is March 23rd, 2023. Calling this meeting to order at exactly 6 p.m. Roll call. Brandon Diaz here. Sergio Diaz is absent. Jose Fernandez is myself present. Tariq Jalid absent as well. Clyde Flieger is also absent, who is the secretary, and in his place for today, Tony Sanchez will be the secretary. Yes, sir. And Alberto Seda is absent as well. We don't have quorum today, so we'll just be a discussion, no voting on anything. We have Senator Rene Garcia. We'll jump right to it. Our discussion, open discussion. Any questions?
No, I do. If you have things you want to talk about, and I think if you can give us, I guess, the state of or the status of where you see this, maybe a little bit of background as to how we got to where we are. Where do you see it going in the near and long-term future? And then I'm sure that questions will come out from whatever information you can provide the committee.
Okay, well, that's first of all, thanks. Thank you all for doing this, and thank you, Mr. Manager and the committee members for Gabby. It's great to see you, Gabby. For putting this, having this discussion, this topic on for the public to hear, because it is something that's going to be very impactful to all the counties. It's going to change the way that we do policing in Miami-Dade County from the current system that we have, where it is a system, what it is a director position under the mayor's office, as opposed to having a sheriff completely autonomous and separate. The ideology of it, when the voter referendum passed a couple of years ago, they created 5 different constitutional offices, one of which was the sheriff's office. Miami-Dade County has had the history for many years of being one of the few counties who did not have a sheriff's office, who had a director's office under the mayor's office. And the reason that happened is because many years ago, the sense of perception and of corruption and so forth, that there was a thought that the agency went a little bit rogue. So they brought it under to the constitutional powers of the home rule charter and so forth. That was years ago. I think it's worked very well up till now. But the legislature voted a couple of years back to go to the voters for this referendum, which I voted for. I voted for the ability of voters to decide. I'm going to be honest with you, when it came down to the voters, when it came down to the vote of Miami-Dade County, I voted against it. Normally would never take the right of a voter to decide the fate of their own community and so forth. But I did vote against the sheriff, and I did vote against the sheriff because I think the system that we had in Miami-Dade County is unique to Miami-Dade County, and it worked, but the voters decided differently. So now we're in a position of deciding what we do. The big battle that we have right now is in Miami-Dade County is what powers we grant the sheriff's office. And by the way, I have Diana Mendez-Cantay, our chief of staff, who put this information together for all of you to review, and I'll go over it briefly. But the powers that were the mission for Miami-Dade County right now is to decide what we do. Do we have a bifurcated system? Do we pass it all over from the system that we have right now to a sheriff, or do we pick and choose what we have? Miami-Dade County right now operates as a municipality. So it's its own municipality, just like Miami Lakes is. And this is why you see what we have right here, that we have Miami Lakes Police Department, but it's a Dade County policing unit contracted out with Miami-Dade County. And I think that was done part of the incorporation of Miami Lakes, part of the contract that we had. So now AMSA, where Miami-Dade County is struggle that we have right now, the county commission is the mayor. What do we do? The thought is for there to be a AMSA, right, police department, and a sheriff's office with limited powers. You have that option. You also have an option where Miami-Dade County will have a very minute, as an incorporated as a municipality, will have their own police department for the big areas of seaport, airport, and other countywide assets. That's another option that they can do, but I think the county commission, the county commission in the last vote they voted to have a bifurcated system where, right, you know, like, correct me if I mess this up, a bifurcated system, where you will have a Miami-Dade County Police Department and reserved powers for a sheriff's office. Or what, do you remember what we passed on that, or?
So basically, they would maintain, the county would maintain the policing of UMSA and retain patrolling responsibilities and certain specialized or investigative duties. That's, you know, homicide, special victims, homeland security, certain duties specialized, they would keep that. And then there would be duties that would be separated for the elected sheriff. You know, a lot of it having to do with the clerk's office, that type of work.
Really only the statutorily required
Correct,
actions or duties,
Correct.
right?
correct.
And that in lieu is why we have the battle that we have right now in Tallahassee. I for one voted against the proposal that the county commission passed. Again, knowing the fact that I voted against it, in the past, when we went to the referendum, I voted against the referendum itself. But now that the voters have spoken, you know, I think that it's important for us to adhere to the will of the voters, and that is to have a sheriff's office that will be what people believe will be an independent sheriff's office with all its autonomous, with all the homicides and other specialty units under one jurisdiction, including courts and jail, that in itself could be up left to interpretation and so forth. But at least for me, the policing powers should be all under one sheriff. So what happens is after the county commission voted for this bifurcated system, yeah, I mess up peaceful. And after they voted for this bifurcated system, the head of the police sheriff's association, Chief Quatari, who I've known for many, many years, said this is not going to end here. And sure enough, they go to the legislature, and now you have these two bills that have been filed, one by Senator Burgess and Representative Fernandez-Barquin, one by Senator Garcia, and again, Fernandez-Barquin. Those are the papers that I passed out to you. And both of them are pretty much, one is making it punitive if the county, right? One is making it punitive, and the other one is saying that all the sheriff powers will rest within the sheriff, or the policing powers
Correct,
will rest within the sheriff's office.
correct.
So there's a question mark as to what passes. You know, what they just, what was,
One will be 1588 is going to be heard next week. That's the first movement in any of those four bills. The top one, Senate Bill 1588 and its companion House bill, really clarifies that all policing in the county belongs to the sheriff, and that they have included in the
entire county.
It says countywide. Municipalities can have their police, but it's clear that the sheriff has countywide and there can't be duplicative services, the county and the sheriff. It clarifies that. The other bill is sort of more punitive in nature, saying if the county commission votes on this, the county commissioner, the votes will have malfeasance or certain, they've committed a crime, okay? And precludes budgetary monies being appropriated for policing under the county. It all has to go to the sheriff's office.
Yeah. And that probably misfeasance and malfeasance, that opens the door for the governor to be able to remove a county commissioner who votes in favor of any kind of, that's the reason for that.
Yeah. Let me ask a question. Kind of curious to me. Why is Representative Barkeen, why did he bifurcate this bill into two?
why do they do things that, why do they, those people up there in the legislature? I would never know.
Somebody with experience.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I'm quite curious.
You know, what happens is this, it's because one is a punitive one, and one is a defining one. So,
He's playing good cop, bad cop.
right, saying, well, if one doesn't
No,
pass,
but-
like if one starts getting traction, then I'm sure he'll leave this one behind. So this is just to have two venues, and you notice that there's two different senators.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this is exactly why. So if one starts to move, listen, in this process, people get, if one of these senators messes up, they get penalized, and then the other one will kill all their bills. This is how the process works, right? So then he's making sure that he has two vehicles. So his strategy may be to amend one to the other, or vice versa, but this is exactly what happens. So look, the fact that we are here today having this dialogue is very important. Because for Miami Lakes, because you all have this contract, you have your Miami Lakes Police Department here, who is a county-wide asset for us. When I say asset, not the men and women that serve, but as the actual building itself. And that's where we house our police force here. There is a contract in place. And that contract, I originally thought that the contract you will. Now we're at the question mark point. What happens? Do these bills pass? I would assume one of these bills will pass.
It's not this session, next
I
session.
would assume. But things happen in the legislature. And yes, the Police Sheriff's Association has a lot of influence with the legislature right now and the governor's office. But things can happen and things may not happen. Let's say that one of these bills passes. If the bill doesn't happen, then I think if the bill does not pass, then I think Miami Lakes will be in a position to pick and choose where they go. If the county eventually creates this bifurcated system, correct me if I'm wrong again, please. There's a lot. If the county creates this bifurcated system, then you will have the option of going with the sheriff's office or Miami-Dade County. And then at that point, you will get the better deal, whichever deal you want, you go with that deal. If they go with this, if one of these bill passes, which I assume it will, you will have to, at that point, negotiate with the new sheriff's office. And before,
Or create your own police force. So that's a cost benefit analysis that the town would have to make.
right.
And which is a better.
If the bifurcated system that the county commission, voted on and approved, right? If that passes, the sheriff's office won't have any patrolling duties or anything of that nature.
I don't believe they have any.
Okay. So that's the intent, was to maintain a municipal type police department for UMSA, the port, the airport. Now, when that item was passed, was any discussion had about, well, what do we do with the three stepchildren? The Cutler Bay, Palmetto Bay, and Miami Lakes. During that discussion, was anything?
maybe they did, I just don't remember, but I think, Cutler Bay is Copenhagen's. And what's the other one?
Palmetto Bay, that's, I think, Copenhagen's too.
Copenhagen's too.
Yeah.
Weird.
I mean, that's totally gonna be mine.
Yeah.
No, that's gonna be mine, it's gonna be District 13. My heart is in Miami Lakes. They may have had conversations, I just don't remember it being very elaborate.
So nothing in what was passed either includes us or excludes us, right? So there would be flexibility, but the sheriff's office in that environment, right, with that kind of an agreement, the sheriff's office not having patrolling duties or investigative duties, it really doesn't make sense that we would sign on with the sheriff's office because they wouldn't have the infrastructure to do our day-to-day policing.
It depends on the actual structure they come in, but look, if I'm a betting man, I would assume that one of these is gonna happen.
So
I would assume that Miami-Dade County will mirror what the rest of the state looks like, the rest of the counties look like, where you have one sheriff with all the policing duties. At that point, Ian and I were talking about that today, because this is extremely important, not that we don't talk all the time, but this was took up the conversation this whole week for us. This is where, if we do have a sheriff at this point, we have a sheriff in Miami Lakes, and then we'll have to make a decision. One, do we have our own police force, incorporate and have our own police force? Or two, we're gonna go with the sheriff model. Then at that point, Miami Lakes can be very important to contract to negotiate with whoever the candidates are. Then you guys are gonna have a vested interest in who gets elected as sheriff. And then now it's politics. This is why the pros and cons with having your own sheriff, because it becomes political. Simple as that.
Do you know,
Who's gonna give you the best deal?
do you know if at the county commission level, they've had, commission discussions about these bills and playing out scenarios? If these pass, we're gonna file suit and contest it under a home rule where there's nothing we can do. I mean, those kind of conversations, have they been had with the county attorney's office at the commission level?
You know,
They have not,
Not that you,
not that they've taken. I mean, clearly, obviously, the commission has taken a position
yes,
and they want to retain their policing powers.
Right.
So therefore, I would assume that their team, the legal team, should these bills pass, there may be some interaction or legal action taken. But there's another piece, the sheriff filed suit. It was basically the judge said there's no harm yet, so, not now.
I think they said the
They will
sheriff's
file
association
suit,
really
yeah.
doesn't have standing.
right.
Right, so it'd be whoever got elected to the office, that would be the entity, the person that had standing to bring suit against the county.
And this is why I think while granted Miami-Dade County has a home rule charter, and what home rule charter is for the residents who are listening to us, it precludes us from a lot of the statutes in the Florida legislature that governs counties, gives Miami-Dade County their own ability to govern themselves, unless obviously you pass certain legislation and rules directing them. This is why they've gone to the legislature, because they've gone to the legislature to amend these rules for that same reason. Because Miami-Dade County, when we passed this current resolution, we were basing our decision on the home rule charter that we had that was silent as to what policing means, the definition of policing in a county. Because policing can be so many different things, and this is why they're passing this bill to pretty much define what the actual policing means in the state of Florida. Therefore, Miami-Dade County will have to fall in line with this. Would there be a lawsuit? Yes, I don't think we could. I don't, and it's going to be an expensive lawsuit that I'm going to fight against. So, but I think Miami Lakes is really going to have to figure out, follow these bills. I would assume one of these will pass this year. That's legislative session, and then Miami Lakes is going to have to make an internal decision as to what we want to do. And I say we because I'm part of this community. I always tend to like, I always tend to like having our independent force, but it is very taxing on the residents. And these gentlemen and women here in Miami Lakes right now, from Miami-Dade County, have done a phenomenal job, here. So, what we got to figure out what road, what path we go. And I'm not one to tell you right now that I have any advice as to that path. But I think, Mr. Manager, you need to. Whatever you want,
I'm the people's man.
but we had to start exploring the different options,
Right.
and the different costs. So we can be very transparent with the residents and, as to what we have before us. I really do think we have two options at that point. Create our own, or find a contract with, get the best contract with whoever the new sheriff costs.
And what about transition period? Let's assume that one of these bills pass and the county is precluded from having a municipal type police department with patrol and investigative duties. What would be the person who gets elected sheriff is going to be in November of 24. I believe they don't take office until January of 25. So obviously they just can't walk through the door and say, okay, now I'm in charge. Maybe they can. So has there been discussed at all any kind of transitory period between when the new sheriff takes office and when they have full control of the train?
The manager, you're giving us a lot more credit.
No.
We can say. You would think that would be happening now, but I think the county is waiting to see what happens.
They're in the fighting it mode at this point.
We're waiting with this, and then I would hope, you're right, I would hope that we start a process of transition, of what that transition is going to look like. But right now, until we don't see what happens with this, why would the county, now I'm gonna put my county hat on?
Yeah.
Not what's right or wrong, but why would I want to start a process, which I don't know what's gonna happen? And then again, we have 3 jurisdictions. I think it's all right, the 3 jurisdictions. you
There's
mentioned.
3 municipalities that contract with the county for police service.
You know, and it shouldn't be that way, but it's not the vast part of the county. So it's just 3 new jurisdiction. Well, I don't think Miami-Dade is little, but the global scale Miami-Dade County, this is why they're not so worried about it, but you all need to be thinking about this and figuring out what the town Miami-Dade. Actually, no, I wouldn't think it's a bad idea reaching out to the other jurisdictions.
Yeah, we've been
Okay,
in contact with the other,
And-
but the other 2 are geographically right next to each other.
Right.
So they have different options that we may not have.
Because
Because they
it's
could
not
always
the same.
combine forces and create one
Right.
department between the 2. You know, that could help spread out the cost of, the biggest cost, I believe, in going into our own municipal police force would be that transition of going, you know, we're the startup, right? Because we're coming from scratch. We have nothing, not a single police car that we own, you know. We don't have people that we've employed and trained and everything. So it's costly and cumbersome to make that change to go from contracting with the county, which we're extremely happy with, to having our own municipal police department. There's other cities that have done it, so it is doable. But it would be something that I think we'd have to really quantify how that transition would look like before, you know, the council makes a decision to pull that trigger, and no pun intended. So,
If I can expand on what the senator mentioned, was that the county did direct, the commission did direct the administration to start collecting a list of assets, being buildings,
Mhm.
you know, equipment, you know, the cars and all the other equipment, including staffing, so that there's a body of inventory of assets that would be shifted over to the sheriff's office. So that work is ongoing. Okay.
It's not a question marks. I mean, but Miami-Dade needs to figure out if, Mr. Badger, I know they have different options. But the option is what do we do as these 3 jurisdictions? There's a little more power and say, this is what we, all 3 of us want, than it is just being Miami-Dade's or them alone. Cutler Bay, was it?
Celebrate.
Cutler Bay, Palmetto Bay.
Yeah.
Being alone, but I would think that we need to start thinking of the idea that this is going to happen one way or another. I do believe that the sheriff will win ultimately in Tallahassee. I do ultimately believe that we will have an elected independent, we will have an elected independent sheriff, but with broad policing powers over Miami-Dade County, if I'm not betting that. Yeah, I mean, I believe that's what's gonna happen ultimately. But I can't concretely tell you this is what's gonna happen because we all know how the process
There's a lot of
works.
uncertainty still, and even just with this legislation. To dictate.
And it can change.
Yeah.
And it can change.
Mr. Manager, has the other municipalities done what we're doing with the committee structure, or they're just having the internally?
They're handling it at the administrative level, yeah. So not that I'm aware of, I told them that the council had elected to establish this committee to start kind of doing some due diligence and be able to get to the point where they can provide a report and you know, some level of advice to the council on what they believe is the right way to go or the right path. But I think I told the committee when we first met, last time we met, last month was the first time that this committee convened. You know, I told them that there's a lot of question marks, but the same thing that you just said, because there's so many things that are still up in the air that it'll frustrate them, you know, as far as being able, all the details and all the, you know, parameters are not known, so it's gonna be.
So something that paperwork that we had last meeting, if the bill passes, completely changes, right? That we brought last meeting. We had the state statutes so it completely changes everything.
And it'll change everything. I think one of the things you need to do is the same thing that the county's doing. They are taking inventory of the assets. I think we need to figure out the assets that we have here that benefit you, that you use. Take an inventory of those as well for you, just for Miami-Dade and its committee. So you can get a value of that, what it is. In the event that you may want to transition, then you can maybe want to negotiate with the incoming, whoever the sheriff is at that time. Find out what it costs to take on those assets from Miami-Dade County right now. And maybe there could be some negotiation on that as well. You know, maybe we use the leverage of what we're paying the county now. You know, how much are we paying anything to the county now or no?
Yeah,
On the mitigation, how much are we paying the county now?
oh, no, mitigation payments. No.
We're doing mitigation, okay. What are we paying the county now, just for the police and fire, right? Or just police? How much are we paying them now?
I think it's over $8 million a year.
Okay, so maybe within that $8 million, figure out.
Nine?
And so.
Nice.
Yeah. The way to
But we're worth it and we're good.
I don't, wait a minute.
We had the benefit of a small town police department with the benefit of a large metropolitan police department with experience and assets, and so we have the best of both
So
worlds.
this is what, you know, if you're paying $9.5 million already, you know, so that's money that you are already using. You know, maybe that could be used as leverage when if you think I'm going on your own to transition some of these assets over, and obviously there's always ways you can negotiate with the county, and I will help guide whatever direction whatever decision Miami-Dade decide, I obviously will help, but I don't wanna, I think that has to come from the residents, I mean, the administration, and the voters in Miami-Dade County, of Miami Lakes, as to what direction we want to do. Look, I represent Miami as well. We have our own independent force. I'll tell you the pros and the cons that come with it, but it's your force. You know, it's
No, but they've always had their force, and they're a large department, so
so
there's
just start over.
the economies of
And I get
scale.
you, because it is expensive.
Yeah.
And it's not only that, it's just expensive just to the. Not only from the material aspect of it, but the workforce aspect of it, and then the benefits. I think that's the one huge, and it's not something how much expensive it is. What? On the benefits.
To me, this was your meeting, I kind of hijacked the questions, so.
Oh, it was good.
I think the biggest thing we got is just pretty much the direction where the county going.
Do you think there's any benefit to talking to the mayor's office or the county attorney who may be spearheading that part of it, or anybody else you think that we should have a conversation with?
I mean, as far as the county goes.
Yeah.
Until all this gets settled, nobody
They don't
knows
know,
what
there's
they're
too much
gonna-
uncertainty. And the session goes through what, the first week of May?
May 5th.
Yeah.
They heard it, they're gonna hear it next week. They still have 2 committee stops. But when you have a bill that has 3 stops, chances are the bill will pass. The moment it has a 4th committee stop, it's iffy. If it has 5,
Forget it, that's due.
I think I only passed one bill that had 5 stops.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not gonna happen. Yeah, and if you're gonna have 5 stops, you have to hear it the first week of session
To get it done.
to get it done. Because the last 2 weeks is all budget stuff, and it's just messages bouncing back and forth, but we're in week 2, week 3, week 2, I said week 3.
Yeah.
Week 3,
This is the first committee hearing.
first committee hearing, 3 weeks, there's more than enough time to get this done. I believe that it will pass.
So the latest you're thinking, beginning of May?
Yeah, the state session finishes May the 4th or 5th or whatever. So after that, we'll know what passes and what doesn't pass.
I think this passes before May, and then the governor's gonna, if this passes, the governor's gonna, it's, no one knows the governor's, I shouldn't put words in the governor's mouth, but I have to believe that, the governor will sign this bill.
So we have, some of our council members are going up for days, Miami-Dade days.
I hope he is.
So they, I think one of the stops they hope to make is speaking to the lieutenant governor. And I think that this will be on their list of things to discuss with her and see, what the thought process is in the governor's office. So if they're in favor of it, they're pushing it, then, I think that bodes that it's probably gonna pass and get signed.
And I'll tell you, honestly, I do commend you guys. I really commend you guys up to it. Not because I'm here, because you guys are here, because I'm friends, but it's important. one of the biggest deals in Miami-Dade's gonna have to deal with is incorporation, I would believe.
The biggest. Then I've decided to become a city, this is the biggest thing in the history of the town.
This is gonna be the.
100%.
This is the big one. The fact that you have a citizen committee together, I think, that you guys recognize the importance. So, you know, I'll leave these information with you. I mean, this is what this is,
These are the bills.
the actual bills.
Yeah. I put the link.
You have
to
a
the
link
bill.
to the actual bills there, so you can look it up, but, or get it out to the residents so they can see exactly what's going on, but, one of these bills will definitely pass. And then, again, next Monday, right? Monday's,
Monday.
I mean, on behalf of the town, I guess we want to thank you. I mean, obviously the committee made the decision. Yeah, but the committee made the decision early on that the first person who wanted to talk was you.
I wish I had more answers.
No, but
Yeah, wait a moment.
Everything's that everyone knows.
No, we definitely really appreciate your time from down here.
And look, you do have to, I do recommend continue the education process. When the bills get passed now, I think the importance of this committee now is when this bill gets heard. Strip it down and have your attorneys look at it because it does morph, it does change. We'll help you with the county interpretation as what's to happen. And just we brought up a good question that about whether we sue or not. On the home rule policy, and I said, I don't think we do, but that's Renee Garcia, one commissioner, right? So I will look into that, find out if would we have any consideration in doing that. Because if that happens, then the timetable is extended. And what the benefit will be. Yeah, if any. I think we gotta look at that. If we do sue, we ultimately, I think, yeah. I agree.
good question. Both of them can pass.
What happens to these, one will morph into one. And this is really punitive. You know, I was in Tallahassee, I would love to pass it, but now that I'm down here. But it's able to turn real quick on me, right? Like lots of.
You got any other questions? As a committee, who else do you think we should bring in the speaker? One of these meetings. Somebody that's knowledgeable there.
Look, I do think that you should bring in the current director. Freddie Ramirez. I think it'll be important to hear from him. It's gonna be hard for him to take any political stance on this, but maybe talk about the different systems and so forth and what he sees coming down the path, because he does report to the mayor. So he's going to do, I know him, he's a very honorable man. I have a great deal of respect for him. But right now, on the way the system is structured, he actually, you know what, he's gonna have to go down the path of what the county commission has adopted and approved right now. I'm saying bring him in, but the reality is maybe you shouldn't just, maybe we just have to wait to see, maybe we could bring some of the attorneys, you want the county attorneys. A good one that you can bring in, is the head of the Sheriff's Association. You'll give
I
it
was gonna ask you.
their criteria, you know, or his folks.
Like the FOP and the PBA stuff.
I think, yeah, that'll be good to bring in. But the Sheriff's Association will be important, but they're gonna be in Tallahassee now, right? So
Yeah, so.
that's gonna be tough, but if you wanna help, I'll try to get him down here to talk to the guys. And it'll be important, maybe we can do something jointly with the other jurisdictions. And hear a couple of different points of view and perspectives on it, and because you guys are gonna have to make a decision. Regardless of what happens. If it passes or doesn't, it's gonna be a decision that the voters of the residents of Miami-Dade and Upper Bay and Oak Club are gonna have to make. And a costly one. I say costly, it's just expensive, it costs, that is costly. So, those are the ones people I would meet. And I would say to bring some of the representatives, but you're not gonna get them
State
down.
senator, state representative.
You're not gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah,
them
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Unless you do something via Zoom. You can bring them via Zoom. And get their perspectives. And there isn't, why not? Let's get them. See what they say about their bills, see what, you know, as a bill now, let's wait till Monday. I want to, I'm
The
interested.
interesting thing is that he represents an unincorporated area. That's all
Fernandez,
unincorporated,
but-
These districts are really for unincorporated.
Yeah, but for him, it's about having a whole sheriff. That's what he wants. Listen, the voters voted for it.
Yeah.
We're just politicizing it. But again, politics.
It'll be very costly because this is only operational. It's 9.5, it's only operational. So startup.
Is there any maintenance in that 9.5 or no?
Yes, I believe there is,
That should be all inclusive. I mean, obviously,
for the town saying if we elect to go independently of the county,
the budget will go.
we have to.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, we have some,
Right now,
like,
it's
we
only-
have our own HR, right? So
Right.
that HR, but then our HR, because we have a limited staff, is only, she's part-time, and so we'd have to expand our HR operation, right? Just to account for, we'd be more than doubling our full-time employees.
Yeah, and then you enter the pension issue.
Liability, sure.
That's what I'm saying, that this is only, keep in mind, the 9.5 that we're paying now is only operational. It's here's your check and we're done.
Yeah.
If we go on our own, it's at least 9.5 for operation, plus everything else that we have to take into account. And you're talking realistically, you're talking about another
Well,
Yeah,
that,
6 million.
The 9.5 includes what?
personnel
the
costs,
town
the
is
pension,
paying for
healthcare,
uniforms, vehicles.
it's
all
It's
included
all
in
in
that.
It'll still go up, but it may not go up drastically. It'll go up, but it may be a couple $1 million.
It's one thing. Yeah, at least, because it's one thing right now, it's inclusive, but the county's giving us the cars.
No, but
County's
we
not
pay
going
for
out- Right, but I'm saying, it's not like we're going out and buy a fleet of cars. We'll be out.
Right, oh, yeah.
The biggest thing would be the upfront cost.
Outfitting and the whole.
You know, the biggest problem the county's having now is constitutional officers, right? Is a duplication of them. I for one voted to move it over, right? So you're gonna move it. But the reality is, and now you're gonna have another HR department, you have another IT department. You're gonna have one for the clerk, for everything. You have, oh yeah, that's a lot of money for the counties to, the duplication of all those different departments and agents and heads against. So one of the things that we're struggling with is how can we create these new agencies or departments of constitutional offices, but keep maybe the back offices of the county. But it's gonna be very hard because when you have the elected elections as supervisors, I say she because Rabbi Christina White is the elected supervisor, she or he is gonna want to have their own department. I want to be able to have control of my own IT and then in the day, what we thought in Tallahassee was a great idea is going to cost us a lot more money. There's no way around it. No way around it. It's going to cost taxpayers in Miami-Dade a lot more money. Not just for the police, but for all the other constitutional offices. Anyway, it sounds like a great idea. Of course, yeah, it's good, but
I worked in Broward, or the Broward Fire Department under the sheriff there.
that's right, the fire than the sheriff.
In
right?
Broward, it's unique, but it's not a good setup. And it could be, right? It all depends on.
If you have the right sheriff,
But
Yeah.
and even then, we come and go, people come and go.
on a 13-person board, you have one person who's, not the all-star. They get blocked out by everybody else, right?
It's a matter, what do you call him?
No, absolutely not. Our district raises the average.
No, but it's true, this is the problem, you have, let's say, the body, you have one, the legislature, the house, you have, but you have one person. And again, I think that you may have a better recollection of it, but I think this is why Miami-Dade County got rid of the sheriff and went, because you had.
Yeah, there's huge corruption. That was, it was in the.
But then you had it for you.
50s or 60s.
Joey put them on.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could, yeah.
In the reds.
I was alive, but I was.
Yeah, but who are you? Anyway, but I just, I do appreciate you
Thank you.
all, this is it's a big deal. And, I think you all recognize the importance of it and the fact that you're here. To have me here, I think whoever's listening to this out there, we need to be paying very close attention to this. It really is gonna affect the taxpayers. I'm really glad you guys did this. Appreciate you, and I'll be in Tallahassee next week, I'll see you up there. And I'll report back, well, you have everyone went up, so we'll report back, but if I hear anything internal, or back, any of the meetings that we have that I may not be as public, I will try to get that back to you guys. I will get it back to you.
Thank you so much.
Right?
Thank you, appreciate your time.
No, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
See you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you, Ida. Now you guys still Gabby.
Unrelated.
Next meeting off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing on the agenda is announcements.
So, I just wanted to remind you that if anybody has anything that they would like to add to next month's meeting, just email it to me. And our next meeting is,
You can't even make a request now, because you don't make a big vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing is, it sounds like we just gotta wait for the session, I mean.
But I think that you guys can do, and
So on our own, we can do things.
Yeah.
Report back. So I mean, I met with Commissioner Regalado earlier this week. So I think it's something on your own, you guys can go ahead and meet people.
I remember we're Tallahassee next week,
Next
so
month,
we're trying
I
to.
think mention, we can discuss it here.
what is she, how does she see this all playing out?
Very similar to what the senator was saying. Basically, we have two options. Right, either contract with the sheriff or create our own municipal police department.
She sees this legislation tying the hands of the county and not being able to
We
establish.
didn't discuss it.
Okay,
We didn't discuss it. But basically come, January 2025, we don't know. what's gonna happen. But I think as it sits now, Miami-Dade County will have their municipal police department, and then you have the sheriff. Who will have separate powers. And when the sheriff comes in, that's when I guess the sheriff will file lawsuit at that time.
Well, once this passes, then I can use everything, if it
Right.
goes.
if this passes, the county may be precluded, but I don't know if this passes, and that'll be up to the county, whether they're gonna challenge it, in court or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, I was hoping we had quorum today so we can vote to have her at one of the next meetings, but.
The thing with the law is if they were to make it as a special law just to affect Miami-Dade County, then yes, all the
Like a
elected.
blanket, no?
So if it's a general applicability,
Mhm.
and then here it's just, you can tell that it's intended for Miami-Dade, but it really covers.
Maybe it's a reaction to what the county passed.
And would this affect any other sheriff across the state? Or that, because.
Yeah,
It would
it's all-
affect every single sheriff,
Yeah,
right?
but
It would be it would be irrelevant to them because they
They
probably
already
already do
operate
this. They
That's
probably
the reason I'm asking the question, I'm asking.
Yeah.
They pretty much operate the way this law pretty much.
Yep.
Correct, lays it out already.
Miami-Dade, what they were proposing, what they passed, was gonna be the exception to all the other 60 some odd counties or
But I
whatever.
know like Broward, for instance, has a fire department on, would this affect them?
No,
No, right?
that's separate. They can do more than,
That's more
they just can't
operations.
do less than.
Less than this.
Yeah.
Got it.
The policing powers in the unincorporated areas belong exclusively to the sheriff, is really what this legislation says. So a
And I
county
already said that
cannot
would
have their own.
That's what Miami-Dade without saying in the.
Separate from the sheriff.
That's what I understood, I'm trying to make sure. that was right.
Yeah, so in the meantime, we'll wait to see what happens in Tallahassee. We'll be doing our own homework, and then back next month. Hopefully next month we have quorum and we vote for.
Let me ask you, Mr. Parliamentarian Attorney, they were asking about whether they can invite, they can't take a
I'll
vote.
make a request. for-
Can they make a request to invite somebody else, whether it be the county mayor, or somebody from the county attorney's office? Can they do it without taking an affirmative vote, or can they just?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would coach is, and you're not inviting them on behalf of the committee, because that would require a vote. But, you're part of the committee, we'd like to have you participate, yeah, you can ask them. And individually, you can ask us to, do anything that we need to do it. We can go ahead and do it, so.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because I don't think next month in April, the session is still gonna be underway. So I don't think it makes sense to invite either the people from the state association of the sheriffs or any of the state legislators. Because they're not gonna be able to be here.
Maybe the
But
director.
maybe somebody,
When does this I don't know. There's no
This
point in-
committee?
Even the.
Well, we had to take that back.
Yes, I think we should say because of everything that's going on, for whatever reason.
What about?
Yeah, it should be-
No.
No, to have it sunset whenever the final report is done.
Which
Which,
should be.
and just leave it open-ended.
Yeah, I'm just.
Something of that nature. Because their work is gonna be, it's gonna be a long time.
Before that?
Yeah, I think so.
an end date.
Because these guys are moving top houses.
Yeah.
They're flying the bills, though. And this is something really fun.
Has this meeting officially ended?
No.
Okay, because I'm barely catching on here because I'm catching up. What these two gentlemen were just talking about, I think should be part of the record. If any of you missed dates and what you were just talking about, basically.
Oh, about the, yeah, it's just the existence of this committee. In the original legislation that created this committee, it had a sunset date. But that sunset date
Yeah.
was, it was too tight. It was, I think, only 90 days, and with all the question marks, you're never gonna accomplish everything you need to accomplish in 90 days.
I think it was 90 days, but I think we might have extended for 6 months.
Didn't we, last week?
We haven't done anything yet.
We talked about it, I don't think we voted on it
Yeah,
last week.
we did discuss it. It was something that was part of the last meeting, but I think internally we discussed not to do it this past meeting. To kind of kick it back a little bit further until you guys had met a couple.
Yeah, I think in the initial paperwork that we had a date of 90 days, but there was something for documents, it was 6 months.
In my opinion, and the manager's opinion, we both of you. I think right now, given what, the senator just said, it's right for us to ask,
But, to extend the sunset, yeah, and push your way out. Maybe it's like the major was saying, maybe on election day or the day that the sheriff takes office in January. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Now, you guys may be ready ahead of time, because then things start clearing up, right? Answers start getting answered.
Once this legislation.
So maybe you guys will be ready to make your final report or recommendation to the council much earlier than that. But no harm, no foul. If you guys are done, you're done. You guys can sunset the committee if your work is over. But this way, we don't have to keep worrying about that sunset date lingering there.
Yeah, no, we talked about it, I don't think, yeah.
What I think may be a relatively doable, request for your April meeting is possibly, if you guys think, we can maybe reach out to the county attorney's office. I'm sure there's either one or two attorneys that have been knee deep in this whole sheriff thing, and they're the ones who have drafted the
That's a great
reports.
idea. That's a good idea.
So somebody from the county attorney's office and or maybe somebody from either the police director or the mayor's office, or a few of them, If you guys give us the latitude, we'll reach out and see if any of those are available. We'll see who can make it to your April meeting, because otherwise I think your April meeting, there may not be anything because this is still on the, lingering out there. This won't be decided by the time you guys meet in April.
Thinking that angle is a good idea. The director's office and maybe the mayor's office. Or the
County attorneys.
County
Yeah,
attorney.
county attorney, because you're right, they're probably gonna be the most involved in the whole process.
The county attorney might take the position that they want to talk. It could be that too.
True.
If I were them, I would.
What's the date for your April meeting?
Our April meeting is on April 27th.
It's like already done by then.
Yeah.
That's something, maybe
Yeah,
that
it's already done by then.
probably. Not saying it will be, but. it's-
Yeah, they say it's public record, they may not want to say.
That's true.
Correct.
That's true.
Yeah.
You have any suggestions? Who might?
I'll reach out to the mayor's office and the mayor and the police director and see if they want to tag team and come in and talk to you.
Okay.
And they can, similar to the senator, they can express how they see the lay of the land. How do they see this playing out? Obviously, they don't, like the mayor doesn't speak for the majority of the commission, but the mayor is very important and
Sure.
she may have a policy, stance that she's gonna take. The police director can see, he can talk to you about how he envisions this whole transition period of happening and so forth, and they may have plans already. At least babies at the infancy stage of early plans. We'll reach out to them and see if they can and are willing to come to your meeting next
That's a
month.
good plan of action, because we haven't been set in stone with this, so I think at least having the background information on the county side. Yeah. Good approach.
Anything else for announcement discussions?
I'll touch base real quick. Javi Ruiz, town commander, obviously. I know I wasn't here last meeting and I was out on leave, I apologize, but I'll make myself available if you guys have questions regarding the structure and the makeup of our current police department, what resources we have right now, things of that nature, because if you guys are gonna look at the possibility of developing your own, then you may want to know what the current complement is of what, what you might need in those terms. Obviously, I've heard the director speak in some of our meetings regarding, what's going on. He's waiting just like everybody else. So, what Commissioner Garcia mentioned as well. And, I'll make myself available if you guys have questions regarding that. Unfortunately, I can't really speak on, on the new sheriff aspect of it because I might be working for them or, or something along those lines, but I can always answer questions about the most important thing is what you have here.
Quick question. So the contract that we have currently with Miami-Dade County. Is that the 9.5 or somewhere in that range? Is that a fixed number? Or does that number vary depending on the type of officer we have here? So for example, do we have a rookie officer or do we have a senior?
It varies.
Because that varies.
It's, the number is attached, it's attached to the individual, right? So if we have more senior officers than junior officers, the number inches up. If we have more junior officers, the number inches down.
Right.
Because it is assigned to Joe Blow. This is his rate of pay. This is his benefit schedule.
Okay.
It's that specific person's. So we do that once a year. We take a snapshot when we're starting our budget process. But obviously that changes because there's people transferring in, transferring out, getting promoted, retiring, the whole 9 yards. So the number never ends up.
And so we mostly have senior officers working in the town of Miami-Dade. Right?
You have a good amount, because what ends up happening is like one retires and I get a more rookie to come in. So you have everything from a guy that's been on for 30 years, a guy that's been on for 27,
Right.
to the guy that is on for like 3-4 years, and what the contract is, the contract doesn't set on economics. It simply says, these are the police services and you receive the bill. If right now, God forbid a catastrophe occurred and he had to cut the budget by half, then half of our people would go back to Miami-Dade Police Department, and we're talking about a catastrophe there.
Yeah.
Huge catastrophe, yeah. If all of a sudden there's some wonderful windfall, you guys come into a lot more money and want to spend, then he can say, hey, I want 5 more bodies. Or something along those lines. So you're billed per every hour that we put in, and then in there are fixed costs regarding, this is what you're paying for. Everything from the professional compliance bureau to the special patrol bureau, from the aviation, from K9, so on and so forth. Those are little fixed costs in there that are just, generated over time, something like that. And lastly, it might, in one of the future meetings, it might be a good idea to have somebody from our finance.
I was just thinking the same exact thing.
Present the actual worksheet and show you the last bill they've gotten,
Right.
which we get the bill every quarter, I believe, here in the town. And they can go line item by line item and tell you this is what's going on. This is, how much you're paying. That way you guys have an idea as to what it is. Because I say 9.5 million, but that's not just salaries and that's it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more in there, from everything from vehicles and uniforms.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think there's, because I work for Miami-Dade Police Department or maybe Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, whatever it is, I think that we are the best. And, one of the reasons is because of our training, and, that's, the training is in there, and, firearms and everything. So, that might be something in the future to have, and that's something that you can certainly request, to have a breakdown of the last bill, just to, as a matter of fact, probably the best bill would be the one September 30th, which showed all of our last year. And that gives you a good idea as to what was spent, on our last bill to the county for the 21-22 fiscal year.
And so in that number, the 9.5, that's why you'd be surprised at how complete that number is. There may not be, the senator's point is accurate, that the incremental cost of establishing our own police department may not be that big, because in there, there's factors for all of the support stuff that the county provides behind the scenes, right? Communications, training, IA, all the other support things. There's factors in there that go into that number. We get billed for a little
Right.
piece of the county's operation in all of those support units.
And the number includes not just the hourly rate, but it includes the benefits, the medical, the.
Right.
Everything,
It
yeah.
includes pension benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
but
it'd be
what I was
interesting to see,
saying-
it'd be interesting to see what the average rate of pay for the officers that work.
We can provide all that.
What I was saying with regards to the startup cost is that these, again, they're operational and it's very well done. Remember, I was involved with the incorporation back in 2000, so
Yeah.
I remember how difficult it was to navigate through all the breakdowns and, you know, because it was a new thing. But if you now decide that, all right, we're gonna open up or start up our own police department, things like communications that are now included, you can say we wanna have our own. Now it's a whole different animal with all kinds of complications that you would have to explore, and it's expensive.
Right,
If you continue with accounting,
right, because we could, there are a
We
lot of
could,
smaller
right.
municipalities that the county
right,
does their communication.
then that cost would be mitigated, but you're still gonna have an additional cost and things of that nature. But even the office staff here, if you start your own police department, forget the police staff. You gotta increase, like we were saying, your office stuff just to handle
Yeah,
that new influx. So there's, before you know it, and we know how numbers go, before you know it, oh yeah, we are spending $2 or $3 million more just to get it started.
yeah, the
And once we
upfront,
spend it, it's gonna stay.
yeah, so. You had something else?
That's all I wanted to
I
say.
have a question. I'm not sure if it's applicable for this particular group, but because of. what
Everybody know
they-
Nancy Rogers? She's the chairperson of our Public Safety Committee. She's involved in this town all over the place, so we can't get rid of her, no matter how.
I'm getting old and slow and forgetful.
Very involved, president. Very important.
But like I said, if it's not appropriate, but I'd like to ask the major, because he was bringing up the different categories and everything of the officers and the sworn personnel that are assigned to the town. When it was all set up, was there a specific number applied to how many sergeants, how many majors, how many, you know what I'm saying? So that on a, let's say, 8-hour shift, are you doing 10 hours?
8 hours.
8 hours, okay. So on an 8-hour shift, is there a specific number of, let's say, a lieutenant or a sergeant? Does that differ based on the 3 different shifts that you have? And I'm just curious how the allotment of so many officers on the road and whatever is allowed to
Right.
Public Safety Committee that works for the town of Miami-Dade.
Right, I think that if you guys chose to make your own police department, then the structure would be very similar to what we have now, based on, you know, what I've observed in other municipalities as well. You'd have probably about the same number of officers and probably about the same number of sergeants. You might add an extra lieutenant, or you might have a lieutenant and a captain. That you're gonna have a chief, so you'd have a chief and an assistant chief, or a chief and a major, or a chief. You know, you might have maybe one more kind of administrative managerial position up at the top, somewhere around there. I don't foresee you having more sergeants. I think you have the amount of coverage that you need with sergeants and officers in that respect. And different locations follow different structures. You know, some people have 10 personnel, you know, because there's a municipality that's so small. And as time progresses, if that's the route that you guys choose to go, you can always look at what Miami Gardens does. You can look at other smaller municipalities. You can say to Opelika Police Department, hey, give us, not that you want to emulate, you know, any of these departments, but you may want to say, hey, let me have your commander's report, staffing report, and let's just see how it kind of works, you know. And you want to look for something that is, you know, comparable in a way to what we have here. You can ask Pembroke Pines for their police department and staffing, but they have, I think they have about a population of about 100,000 when I heard back, or 120,000. we have 33,000, so, you know, there are things that you have to look at.
And the other two. I think there's two besides us. who
Right,
have a
municipalities,
situation. How do
Very,
they compare in population?
I'm not sure how Cutler Bay or Palmetto Bay compares in population, but in terms of staffing, we're very comparable to them. I think each one of them might have, one of them has maybe a couple more officers than we do.
I think Cumberland Bay is a hair bigger than us, Palmetto Bay is very, almost identical.
I think it's at 50,000.
Some, the
Very-
three of us are.
Very, very comparable, and especially at the command level as well. And part of that is because again, we talk about catastrophes, there's a lot of, you know, like a lot of what I'm gonna say is always gonna be, it can be construed as you guys should really stay with MDPD, no matter what, you know, but that being said, if right now something happened, we can always call Northwest District and say, hey, something's going on here, you know,
And Northwest is very close.
and let's suppose I'm in Alaska or somewhere, you know, you have some command staff that is at least kind of looking over it. You know, not only do you have me, you have a chief that's overseeing what we do, you have an assistant director that's overseeing what he does, and so on and so forth.
Last question, as part of that, because there are two other municipalities in the same boat with us. Is it advisable? And if it's already happening, to have any kind of communication with them, ideas
Yeah.
and.
The three at the administrative level, meeting with the other two city managers, we've had,
Good,
I think, 2 conversations.
thank you.
We don't have anything else?
All right, I'll keep you guys posted
Okay.
through Gabby to see if we're able to line anybody up to come talk to you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have a meeting at 7:02?
Brandon, I'm going